Let's begin the second section on emergent strategy of B2C food suppliers to overcome the pandemic-triggered environmental changes handled by our distinguished guest, Mr. Sushil Ashwani. He's a part of leadership of the third generation Cochin-based family business group, the Ashwani Lashmindas Group. Sushil did his schooling in Cochin, followed by his bachelor in business management at the Bangalore University, where he was a rank holder. Post this, he did his master's in business administration from the Symbiosis Institute of Business Management, where he was a gold medalist and was also awarded the best outgoing student. He's active Rotarian and is one of the youngest past presidents of the Rotary Club of Cochin. He's also a certified Toastmaster. I'm honored to welcome you, sir, to share your knowledge.
Thank you, Ashna, and a very, very good evening to everybody. It's a real pleasure for me to be part of this evening's discussion, and I'd like to thank the faculty and the management of the Institute for giving me this privilege to interact with all of you. And I think you're lucky to have people like the previous speaker, Mr. Manoj, giving you such an in-depth and such a comprehensive perspective about how Kerala-based company has really handled the crisis so professionally, so beautifully. And it presents a great learning for everybody attending this meeting, including myself. So I'd like to move on to my talk to all of you. At the very outset, I hope we can make this an interactive session. And it would be great if more of you were to actually reveal yourself, so to say. I mean, see a lot of people blocking their videos, but I guess I've been in institutes and I've been in a similar situation with you all, like you all, and I've been a student too. Let's try to make the next half an hour, 45 minutes as valuable to both of us. And let me start off with my presentation with your permission. I have a short presentation to also share, so I'm just going ahead and sharing my screen. I hope it's visible to all of you. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about how our company has has challenged and overcome, has been challenged and has been able to overcome the challenges which we have had to face through COVID. So a little bit about our company. We are broadly into three areas. We are into FMCG distribution, we are into retailing, and we are also into e-commerce services, which is our latest offering. We are associated with ITC as one of the largest distributors across the country, and we cover almost close to 10,000 outlets directly, ranging from small bunk shops, grocery outlets, bakery outlets, supermarkets, chemist outlets, wholesale outlets, all within Ernakulam Ernakulam district. We are also associated with the companies like Raymond and Jockey as their franchisee. And we operate textile retail showrooms on a franchisee basis. We are also now providing e-commerce services to firstcry.com and Amazon as a Kerala e-commerce services provider. So it's been a great journey, which was started off by my grandfather. It's a third generation family business, which is so far stood the test of time. And these are a few of the brands which we deal with. You know, I think most of you would be aware of the ITC brands, which are now household brands. Apart from their tobacco portfolio, where they have almost close to 97% market share, we are also, we have expanded into close to about 20 categories in the bakery foods, grocery foods, personal care, home care categories. And I'm sure all of you are familiar with these brands. This is a few of our showrooms which we operate, primarily the Raymond franchisees across Cochin. We have recently, during the pandemic time, and this is something I would like to share with all of you, added on quite a few new brands to our portfolio. We have realized that there is a need to kind of cater to the top supermarkets and the key account outlets where there is a need for a reliable service of frozen products, ambient products, just like the Sumeru story you've all seen. And in the past couple of years, we have added on a clutch of brands across variety of categories, whether it's your staples like food grains, oil, frozen food, dairy, sauces, ketchups. And we are also currently in the progress of developing a B2C app as well as a retailer app to basically order the brands which we distribute exclusively to our customers, to provide them with door delivery services. And this is a project which we are very passionately taking up. With respect to our association with Amazon, we have actually been proud to get appointed by them as a multi-seller flex operator and a Prion franchisee. So what we generally need to do is we need to handhold a lot of Kerala-based sellers, bring them onto the Amazon platform, help them start a selling account, provide them with the Amazon Prime kind of badge, which will help them boost their sale, which provides them a lot of logistics services and fulfillment services. We take care of the picking, packing, the returns management, storage management. And it's great to see how e-com in India has actually gone through the roof as a result of the pandemic. And this is an area which has been a recent addition to our portfolio. Similarly, we were appointed by FirstCry.com as their All Kerala e-com services provider in 2016. We now have 2 branches, one in Cochin and one in Trivandrum. And we take care of both their B2C orders, as well as we help their 50 plus stores replenish their stocks within about 48 hours. So again, a new age business which we have diversified into, and something which is growing, which is naturally growing with the e-com trends which we see today. So what I would say is that traditionally our group has had a strength with respect to having a good service-oriented approach, whether it is the FMCG or the textile retailing operations. Both of them have had a very service-oriented approach, which has helped us stand in good stead over the past 6 decades. We have always maintained a good rapport with our suppliers, with our staff and our customers. And we have made a conscious effort to stay ahead of the curve. One of the reasons why we make it a point that all of us have actually worked outside, understood it from the supplier perspective before coming back into the comfort of the family business to kind of stay ahead of the curve. So of course, like any business, we have had quite a few challenges. The textile retail wing especially has been it's been very hard going because shops itself were not allowed to operate for close to about a third of the pandemic, and people were not stepping out of their homes unless it was for emergency purchases. So in this kind of a situation, to run a retail establishment has been no doubt a challenge. And traditionally, we have been dependent in our textile business largely with the fabric and tailoring, whereas the ready-made scenario in India is extremely hyper competitive, and with e-commerce coming in, traditional brick and mortar stores do face a real challenge to grow organically. Similarly, our distribution business, which was clocking consistently double-digit, triple-digit growths, has also stagnated to a large extent because of so many numerous emerging business models. You have so many aggregators, you have the large online e-com service providers, you have brands which are going direct to customers. And in this scenario, it is increasingly becoming difficult to grow traditional trade or general trade, as has been coined. A few of the steps we have consciously taken to diversify and de-risk our portfolios. We realize that our strengths are, we bring in very, very reliable and dependable investment, infrastructure, involvement, and we have some traditional strengths, like we have a good stable manpower, we have adequate space available, and we need to capitalize on these strengths. No matter how technically advanced the world becomes or how much people migrate to e-com, the last mile in terms of reliable service, reliable staff, investment, infrastructure will always be a need. And instead of actually fighting against or competing against the tide, it is always better to collaborate and co-opt with competition. This has been a very critical learning which we have had. Moreover, I think it's very important for any organization to keep unlearning, keep relearning, be open to new trends, and to keep making a few shifts in their approach. You have to keep making markers in your course to adapt with the changing times. And that's where, my friends, one point I'd like to highlight is that always having an entrepreneurial mindset holds every management professional, whether you're working for a private company or whether you're running your own business. You've got to have that entrepreneurial mindset to survive and to add value. So these are a few things which we have always looked at to keep us afloat with the changing times. Now, it's been almost close to 2 years of us all being in the COVID boat together. And this has been a fairly long period of time. And both the years which we have faced have been marked with a few differences. The first wave was very, very different. There was a lot of panic buying, a lot of unknown. People were actually looking at purchasing only the essential commodities. Brands and suppliers were also getting their supply chain together to take care of the sudden demand. Like, for example, if you look at ITC, we deal with so many product categories, and the demand and supply situation was just thrown absolutely off balance. The demand for hand sanitizers, for the surface disinfectant sprays, hand washes just went up by close to about 10 to 15 times. And this kind of a demand growth is something which no company can actually adjust to. But credit to our Indian entrepreneurial systems and our flexibility and our agility, I think we've been able to manage supplies extremely well, considering the crisis we have faced. Suddenly, the deodorant plants, which were manufacturing engaged deodorants, were all manufacturing the same disinfectant sprays. The same bottle design was used to come out with health and hygiene products rather than the personal care, beauty, cosmetic products. And we saw that most companies across the board were rationalizing their portfolio with the limited manufacturing capacity. They were prioritizing the health and hygiene portfolio to a very large extent. This was the characteristic feature of the first phase. Online also took a bit of time to get used to the entire COVID crisis. The big baskets of the world, the Amazon groceries of the world, milk baskets, all of them were unable to cope with the immense demand which was coming through. And the last mile was absolutely in a challenge. Ultimately, in e-com also, just like traditional trade, unless you have a strong last mile, you are not just going to be able to cope up with the demand on your platform. So we had a situation wherein our sites for orders were throttled and caps were set because the last mile was just not able to cope with it. But within 2 or 3 months, I think people were able to find their bearings, and we've been able to cope admirably with the crisis as far as managing the huge changes in demands which have taken place. One thing which has also come to light is the importance of good service. I can speak with great pride that our team, especially our distribution team, has absolutely worked uninterrupted. Not a single day has been lost. Maybe apart from 2 or 3 days during the very initial stages wherein we were just forced to close down by the authorities, the way our teams have rallied into action, the way the company has been able to ensure supplies to us, and the way we've been able to service our market with the support of all the retailers has been something which is absolutely admirable. We have also been able to customize our offerings, whether it's our textile retail field, we've been providing concierge services. Our field staff and our sales staff have actually taken the effort to go to people's houses, get things done for them. And that way we've been able to actually provide a large number of customizable offerings to our customers. This has also been a great feature of the pandemic times. And there has been a great adoption towards technology, whether it is through suppliers, companies, distributors, retailers. The number of people, if you see electronic payments, how we have adopted this technology, what was India's target in about 10 years has been met within 1.5 years period span. We have also adopted large number of technical interventions like telecalling and virtual salesmen and people who are able to actually help cater to the requirement of retailers when we are not physically able to go there. So these kind of technical interventions have also been adopted to meet the challenge emanating from the COVID crisis. I'd like to narrate a few of the experiences firsthand which our company had to face and which will remain with me for years to come. There was this incident wherein right during the beginning of the pandemic, maybe sometime in May 2020, Kerala has really dealt with the pandemic in a very exceptional manner. So we had one single case in the road which our organization operates from, and immediately that road was declared as a containment zone. So we actually really were in a fix because all our operations, our warehouses operate from that particular road. And we had to take the authorities, the police authorities, the health authorities into confidence. And this is where I think the years of relationship, the trust, and the environment management which we have had really came into force. You wouldn't believe it. The containment zones were marked by 2 ropes, and the police authorities gave us absolute freedom and authority to allow people to walk in and walk out of the containment zone only if it is for the procurement of the essential items. And we were able to overcome this crisis because of the great relationship we have built in with all stakeholders. Similarly, ours has been a very Cochin-based oriented firm, but during the pandemic, we have done some great things. Like we have expanded our geography. We have started off a warehouse in Trivandrum. We started off a showroom outside the boundaries of the district. Moves which we have been hesitant to take for years and decades, we've been able to do during this pandemic crisis. So I don't think, while of course respecting the fact that it has taken so much of toll on our lives, on our health, there's been no doubt about the fact that it has accelerated us into taking the online opportunity way forward. And this is a lesson that with every crisis, there also comes an opportunity. Similarly, I think one can say with pride that we have actually understood the value of our relationships with the suppliers, with the customers, as well as with our staff. These are the 3 pillars or the 3 stakeholders on which our business especially operates upon. ITC, as one of our principal suppliers, has actually taken great efforts to ensure that all the frontline staff, our backend, every member of our staff has been double vaccinated. We have been providing huge amount of CSR budgets to the police and the health workers during these tough times. All our retailers have really appreciated the way we've been able to service them during the pandemic. They have realized that we have worked uninterrupted, and they have also taken a lot of pains wherever containment zones were declared to actually come over and make sure that payments are uninterrupted, supplies are uninterrupted. I think the entire FMCG retail segment has worked tirelessly throughout the pandemic. And this has not been done with the motive of just sustaining your business or making your business profitable. I think the service which they have rendered to society is something which really needs to be appreciated. And lastly, I think one opportunity which emanated from the pandemic has been, it has given us a very clear future path. We foresee that our role has to shift from a traditional distribution provider to something which is a far more value-added segment. We need to actually help brands or help consumers come together, and we need to provide them with services which are new age, which are suited to e-com. And this has happened during this pandemic time. And I think a lot of future vision has got crystallized on account of the pandemic. So what are some of the new trends which food suppliers, especially FMCG manufacturers, are taking up at this stage? On one hand, most brands are now trying to have a direct to consumer channel. This is a key buzzword which all of you must be reading about. A D2C channel is wherein a brand directly tries to make itself accessible to consumers without the traditional intermediaries in the value chain, whether it is the distributor, whether it is the retailer, the wholesaler. You have a large number of D2C sites coming in. Brands realize that these sites will not just bring in consumers, it will help build awareness, build trials, and is a great source of publicity for the brand. So you can see that with platforms like Shopify or ShipRocket, most brands are now coming in with their own D2C websites. Many of the larger companies like Hindustan Lever, P&G, ITC are all coming up with their own e-store concepts in each city, wherein they provide their portfolio of products, free delivery to consumers. This is a trend which is increasingly growing. While D2C is one platform which is growing, the other area is that all companies which are in the food space are very, for them, it has now become an imperative to be on all the online marketplaces, whether it is the Amazon, Flipkart, big baskets of the world. You can see that everybody is not just being present, they're also trying to build brand pages, take up a lot of promotional space and category space on these particular marketplaces. So a marketplace would be like a mall, whereas a D2C would be like an exclusive brand store for your store. While e-com is definitely growing and needs to be focused upon, in our Indian context, the traditional trade still accounts for close to about 88% of the brand sales. And it is very crucial that if you wish to launch a new product or to expand your range, you need to have your presence in the general trade. And general trade with all the competitive offerings and it is where the war is ultimately fought. When you and me go to shop, you see a new product, you see a new category available, your trial starts there. And then probably it would be topped up in a marketplace or in a D2C e-store. So that focus and continuous endeavor to improve your share of shelf is also something which brands are continuously focusing upon. Then, of course, you have a lot of new age disruptive models coming in. You have players like JioMart, Metro Cash and Carry, Walmart, Udaan, who are trying to take the place of the traditional great Indian wholesale. And they are trying to offer retailers with a great new opportunity to provide them with doorstep delivery, credit, and make sure that their servicing pattern, which has been dependent on the traditional wholesale channel for so many years, has been now disrupted. And I'm sure that this new young generation of MBA students have to be equally equipped at both the concepts, whether it is the share of space, which was the traditional space, the mantra in FMCG, to the share of search. Now with digital marketing campaigns, all of you need to be tech savvy enough to understand that the way we as consumers search, the way we communicate is changing on a day-to-day basis. So what seems to work during this pandemic time? The differentiation, definitely, if you look at any new launch which has been successful, it has to be differentiated. That age-old mantra of coming out with a superior product or an improvement over an existing product or a better pricing or a better grammage is no longer making as much traction as coming out with differentiation, which is valued and which is perceived by consumers. Marketing brilliance too is something which is really needed today more than ever. The way we are, I think very few of us have traditional cable TV subscriptions. We are all moving to OTT platforms. The way we consume our content, whether it's on iPads, mobile phones, is something which marketeers are very sensitive about, and they are continuously evolving and looking for different means to communicate. And while you need to have a differentiated product offering, if your communication is clutter breaking, if it is peppered with marketing brilliance, that is one area which will definitely hold a brand in good stead. then it's not easy to stereotype what's happening. One would feel that the pandemic is favoring people who are into core grocery essentials or products which are just the need of the hour. But it's not like that. Even impulse products or luxury products, products which are not so necessary, say a Cadbury Silk, it has been growing at almost 35-40% year on year despite the pandemic. There is a whole lot of pampering going on. People are actually looking at in-home consumption in a big way. People are looking at giving themselves a mental pacification and trying to look at products. Another example I can talk to you about is this brand called Nykaa. People are actually using luxury products, cosmetic products, and pampering themselves to give themselves the best. I think everybody feels that they have been harangued and harassed by the pandemic, and they deserve a break in terms of using luxury products themselves. So it's not fair to say that it has only been the core essentials or the core FMCG which has done well. There have been a large number of marketing interventions which have helped brands which are not the core categories also grow. Another example I can tell you from our own Amazon warehouses, we had this product called Jackfruit 365, which has been acquired recently by Eastern. Now, this is a jackfruit powder which can be added to your food recipes. And this product was an average product at best. So during the pandemic, there was this WhatsApp video which went viral about how this the benefits of jackfruit in terms of reduction of blood pressure, cholesterol, were being explained by the founder of Jackfruit 365 to Narendra Modi. And the day after this video went viral, we suddenly saw close to about 400, 500 orders per day on our Amazon website for this particular product. So just imagine, whereas earlier brands would jostle for hoarding space or would jostle for print media or for large big ticket events like IPL or Wimbledon. Nowadays, even a simple viral WhatsApp message can do wonders for your brand. Of course, it can also work the other way. One controversy for your brand can do great damage to your brand, but you have to be understanding of the fact that the media which we consume, the communication channels are continuously evolving, and we need to really reach out to consumers in the manner which they consume content. Another example is this upcoming emerging brand called Heal Pharma. We are associated with them in terms of we take care of the fulfillment of their orders across all platforms. They have their own website. They also seek our services to take care of their orders on Amazon as well as on Flipkart, and now also on Meesho, a new platform. Many of the brands are doing spending huge amounts of money on branding, trying to build up a good portfolio, a good credible source of orders, and then they would be playing the valuation game and probably in future looking to sell out their brands at a great value to larger players or incumbent players. These are some of the trends when you look at new startups or new companies in the food space. Also, I think people are increasingly making sure that they appeal to youngsters by taking care of the OTT medium, as I was mentioning. There's a Netflix program called The Money Heist, and recently Pepsi had basically brought out a limited edition campaign. And that too, I think, was a great launch, so to say. So I'm going to slowly wind up and start taking questions. This is something which I found on LinkedIn, which I thought made a lot of sense. My parting message to all the youngsters here, there are a lot of S's in my screen. So as the saying goes, this is something which is applicable whether you're a student or whether you're a working professional. Try to keep these things in mind. Decrease salt, sugar, and stress. Increase sweat, sunlight, and sleep. And try to cultivate slow, mindful eating, good sense of self-esteem. Have a social life. It doesn't mean that everybody needs to be an extrovert. Even introverts need to reach out to their own limited friend circle. Have a social life. Keep enough time for your hobbies. and have regular speed breakers. When you take a speed breaker, doesn't mean that you are going backwards or you're reversing, you're actually catapulting forward. And invest time in spirituality and simplicity. And I'd like to end with this last slide, which sums up what my message would be to all of you. When you're in your MBA or your management education, try to cultivate this holistic business perspective. What you're specializing in today, whether it is finance, marketing, or HR, will definitely not be what you're going to be doing when you step into the corporate world. All the problems actually merge when you are in a real life challenge, and having a holistic perspective and respect for all these functions will definitely help you. I can give my own wife's example. She is a economics rank holder from the Shriram College, and she did her finance from Credit Suisse while she was at SIBM. She worked with Credit Suisse for a couple of years. And what she's doing today is something totally different. She's managing our e-com operations. And I think the fact that we are able to adapt to various different real life challenges thrown at us is because we need to have this respect and understanding of all the business functions. Ultimately, when you're a CEO or a leader, you have to have perfect knowledge of all these functions, and you need to not just have knowledge, you should have practical exposure to all of these. Second thing is, be aware of all the trends, stay updated, continue to read. I think a large number of online courses available today are optional, and it never hurts to basically keep updating your core stream of knowledge, doing a lot of supplemental courses, building up your profile. Today, I think being IT proficient is something which is non-negotiable. All of us need to develop on our IT skills, undertake classes to understand more about digital marketing, because the way the world is changing very rapidly. I think India has met its target for 2030 by 2021 because of the pandemic, in terms of where we were supposed to be as far as e-commerce transactions are concerned. And we need to all upgrade our skills accordingly. Being well networked is a prerequisite for sure. I think it's not enough to be confined to your own space or your teams. We need to all understand and learn from each other. And I guess that is where forums like this, wherein we try and hear and understand about the case studies of successful companies. When we are facing similar such issues, we can definitely count upon the great network which is inherent to all of us. And I think with every crisis comes an opportunity. I've already spoken about that. And lastly, I think you should have the larger goal very clear. I don't think business is about multiplying money or making profits alone. I think there is a larger goal which each of us can define for ourselves. It could be a great, happy, successful life. It could be a healthy life. It could be something which is adding value to your society, which you're serving. But let's have a clear, larger perspective, which is beyond measurables. Part of it should definitely be immeasurable. And a good head for numbers and a good heart will surely stand all of us in good stead for all the challenges we face. So with these words, I'd like to hand over back to the organizers. I hope I haven't taken much of time. And I'll be glad to answer your queries or questions. And I hope you've been able to get some value add from this session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your time today and also for sharing your valuable pieces of information with us. So now let's move to the question and answer session. Please post your queries on the chat box.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yes, please. You're speaking to Juma Amos. I'm a BBA student, second year. I come from Uganda. Well, I've been listening to your session. I'm really so delighted, and I'm so excited to learn from you, because I come from a part of the world where the digital marketing and all this e-commerce is some kind of still at a lower level, and I must admit that I'm really so excited to learn this new way of exploring the market. I have started about districts. What's the name of districts?
Mr. Amos, we are losing you. We are not able to hear properly. Hello. Or
Yes,
Ashna,
please.
are you able to
No,
hear
sir.
properly?
His voice is breaking.
Yeah. So
Zulma, if possible, can you write on the chat box what you are trying to say? Or
Hello.
For you.
yeah.
Are you listening?
yes.
Yeah, go ahead. Now we
Yes.
can hear, I think.
Yes, sir. I was at the point of saying that when we are giving such a nice session, are we looking beyond India as a nation, or we're looking as the whole world? Because what I know now is like Amazon platform for marketing has started from a different country and it has managed to explore the whole world. So when you're looking at from this point of perspective, I think it's also necessary to cut across some of the countries beyond India as a country, right? Because if I happen to get enough knowledge from here, where I'm learning right now, I think I can be one of the key people who will go outside there and also take advantage of the community where I come from the knowledge that I've attained from this college and from this very session as I attend right now. So I would love, if it's possible, you can also cut across or beyond India, because we have international students also here who would also love to learn. And this is the most important thing when you come to a different part of the country to learn. It's not just getting out of the college with the certificate. This is what we really want to really have, exploring things, learning things, how to go and relate in the market out there and doing other stuff. So I'm really so appreciative.
I absolutely agree with you what you're saying, Amos. In the sense, I might not be really well versed with what's happening in your part of the world for sure, but there are a few generic things which are happening across the world. In the sense, as smartphone ownership and as internet connectivity improves, definitely the way people traditionally purchase is going to change. And for marketplaces like Amazon, India is definitely a really happening and priority market for them. But eventually, I think every consumer is going to have a variety of options to buy from. If traditionally and currently you are purchasing from a certain medium, that's going to change. And the rate of change might differ from country to country. It's important to understand what's happening in your part of the world and understand these strategies. But some of the things which we have spoken about today are going to happen across the world for sure. And it's just the rate of it happening is going to differ from country to country. But it's going to be a progression. If we are going to start off with traditional trade, then there's going to be modern trade, then there's going to be e-commerce. Then within e-commerce, there is going to be variety of channels like having a marketplace, having an exclusive store. So I think these rules are going to be applicable across, and we will definitely have to study your area when you do go back to your country and try to make a difference. Your learning here as well as global case studies will definitely be applicable. You need to understand which model or which mode is best suited to your part of the world and accordingly concentrate there. But the basic theoretical framework remains more or less the same, across.
Yes, thanks for your response. Yes, I agree with you. Yeah, it will all be applicable. Yeah, because when you see how the world is growing right now, it's sooner or later it will all have to be e-commerce. So I think it's good. It's no matter how they lower the level of the e-commerce, the country where I come from is at the moment, it will still be applicable sometimes. So it's advantage to my side to get the knowledge and maybe way to execute when time comes. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any more questions?
So I have a question. Nowadays, we are all moving to this online site platform and all. So what do you think? Now, latestly, I have seen that Lenskart and all, they have come with the augmented reality thing and all. So what do you think? What is the future of this brick and mortar retailers?
In India, as I said during my speech, close to 80% of sales still happens for most offline, so brick and mortar stores. So our country is definitely not going to go 100% online all of a sudden. But yeah, what brands are looking at doing is creating a 360-degree approach, kind of a touch point at every stage. Like when you buy a lens for a frame for your glasses, you can definitely use augmented reality to see how it looks on you. They also offer great services wherein you can actually order online, you can test the frames, you can reject it, you can return it. And they are able to do so because of the great margins which are involved. But at the same time, these products need to be available in various multi-brand stores as well, because the core manufacturers for these products cannot be dependent on one particular channel alone. And different customers are differing in their attitude. Some people would like to touch and feel and purchase. Some of them are ready to experiment online. And if you really need to capture the market, you need to be available at all the possible touch points, whether it is online, whether it is offline. And sometimes you need to have an offline presence to actually give some credence or some kind of believability to your online format. There are a lot of online marketplaces which don't have an offline presence, and many of them which have a concerted offline presence to boost their online presence. I think from a channel's perspective, when you cut across various intermediaries and go direct to customers, the margins are far better, the overheads are a lot lesser. But to reach to that particular point, you really can't ignore an offline scenario. You either need it to strengthen your online brand, you either need it to supplement your online brand, or in many categories, especially in the Indian category, in the Indian context, since offline still contributes close to more than 8/10 of the overall sale of every category, you need to have both online as well as offline. So that's how a brand would probably perceive it. And different categories of shoppers prefer using different mediums. So we have to look at our target audience and decide our retail strategy. By no means does it mean that brick and mortar is dead or it doesn't have any future prospects. I would for one say that we will continue to exist, and being an offline retailer myself, I can very well say for a fact that you cannot have 100% of business happening online at any cost. So yeah.
Taking up from that question, I would like to ask, do you see some kind of social and political change in approach, like what was happening in China recently, towards these online retailers in other markets also, or probably globally, if I can put it that way? Would that be a reality going forward?
Yeah, I think even in India, there are a lot of trade confederations which are up in arms against online marketplaces, and many of the practices which the e-commerce companies currently adopt are fairly predatory, to say the least, in the sense they are trying to circumvent a large number of laws which are currently prevalent. Of course, a lot of what they say is genuinely correct, in the sense because online exists, a large number of small traders and retailers have also been able to find a source of livelihood. But a bulk of their business is coming from large, big brands, and those big brands, they are able to make it profitable to sell online only because of the predatory practices which they currently adopt. So I think it's an evolving situation. We don't have a very good e-commerce policy currently. A lot of tweaks need to be made in the e-commerce policy to take care of the a few of the malpractices which are detrimental to traditional trade. But I think the faster traditional trade looks at adopting and understanding that online is the way forward, and that is what the customer prefers. And we have to all come into our own roles. We could either choose to co-opt with them, we could choose to partner with them, we could choose to sell online as well. But there is no ignoring the fact that it is there to stay. So I think you have to find that right balance, and you have to look at your own interest as a member of the value chain, understanding that the customer or the shopper is king. And if he is benefiting from online, it is definitely going to stay in the future. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think Amazon understands it better than anyone else. That's why probably they are exploring even space.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You're right,
Yeah.
Sunil.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. So let me take your leave. I have another call right now. Thank you very much. It was a nice session. Now I think Ashna and team will take it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, Sunil, sir. So any more questions? If you could go back time to your 20s, what advice would you give yourself during your initial stage of your career?
That's a very interesting question. Yeah, I think I would have enjoyed my college life a lot more than what I actually ended up doing. I think I spent too much of my time with the books, and a few more of my skill sets I would have loved to have harnessed. Few more of my hobbies I would have liked to pursue, because with realization, you tend to realize that I think overall development is far, far more important, and you can't lose sight of the overall goal. I think I was a bit narrow-minded in my approach in my 20s. And of course, I can't complain, but I would definitely have made few tweaks to the way I went about during my college days. I would have spent a lot more time on my physical fitness, maybe. And also, I would have probably gone beyond the subject matter, a lot more practical insights I would have explored. I would have probably done a stint of entrepreneurship on my own before joining a company, because I think that would have helped me understand the real life implications a lot faster and a lot quicker. But that's a very interesting question from your end. And the other diplomatic way of answering that question would be, I wouldn't change anything, because I wouldn't have this realization unless and until I had made mistakes. So mistakes are a good thing to do in one way. So yeah,
Definitely.
but I guess it's for each of you to decide on your own. And that realization will only come up in hindsight. So hindsight is a wonderful thing.
Yes, that was an interesting question asked by Sahil Anwar. So I guess that's it. Any more questions?
Sir, you are a third generation family business owner. So, what will be your intake to the students who have a lot of idea to start their own business? So, you have any guidance for them?
Yeah, I think starting your own business, you need to have a very crystal clear, good value proposition, because what you're going to start, is there a need for that product? Is there a gap in the market currently? And how you're going to make your offering successful? How are you going to communicate it? You should study the market in totality, have a unique or a creative idea or a genuine felt need for your product or offering. I think once you have figured out that aspect, everything else will gradually fall in place. With the support of your alumni or with your teachers or your own batchmates, you can figure out a lot of things on the way. What you really need to have is a good value proposition, and you need to have a good market awareness to arrive at that value proposition. So I would say, if you have a good proposition in mind, definitely by all means pursue it, and everything will fall in place, provided the idea which you have is a felt need. That's what marketing ultimately is all about.
Thank you for your question. Any more questions? You can ask directly to.
Ashna, I think there is no more questions.
Okay, sir. So now I would like to call upon Nikita Randir to conclude this enlightening session.
Dear all, thank you for patiently listening to our guest speaker, Mr. Sushil Ashwini, sir. Sir, your words were truly inspiring and an obliged to you to spend your valuable time and expertise with us. The concepts such as D2C, S-GAN of success, share of search versus share of self, new age disruptive technology providers, the valuation game, etc. will truly help us in our future endeavors as an entrepreneur and as a budding manager. Thank you, AICTE, IIC, and Rajagiri Management, Director, speakers, and faculty to arrange such a wonderful section. Thank you, the students, to patiently listening to our guest speaker. Thank you all.